So I'd like to introduce today's dialogue partner, Mr. Tomoya Nakamura. He is the current president of Globus USA. Welcome. All right, Mr. Nakamura, the stage is yours.
Good evening and good morning for those who are joining from Tokyo. My name is Tomoya Nakamura. Ashley, where is the... Yeah. I'd like to talk a little bit about kokorozashi. Thank you for joining tonight. Kokorozashi is a Japanese word. Probably you have signed up to this seminar without knowing the meaning. So let me explain a little bit about what kokorozashi is. Have you heard the word before, kokorozashi? Our definition of kokorozashi is a personal mission that unifies the passion and skills of a professional to create positive change in society. And in Chinese character, this is how you write kokorozashi. The upper part is samurai, a warrior, and the bottom part is a heart. So what does a samurai heart mean? Basically, samurai knows when to put his or her life on the line. So basically, you give everything for a kokorozashi. And if you have a kokorozashi, probably you'll be able to listen to your heart. And you would be able to receive support and gratitude. So those are the two benefits of having a kokorozashi. And this is what my MBA students say about kokorozashi. Learning in this kokorozashi course is not quantifiable and invaluable. The kokorozashi course has been a truly inspirational journey for me. Kokorozashi enriches your life. So basically, if you have a kokorozashi, your life would be much more fruitful. That's what our students say. And what is special at Globus is we have one field of study in kokorozashi. So if you come to Globus, you will study 4 courses regarding kokorozashi. Now, how do you make a kokorozashi? I'm just going to show. Basically, the lower part is your, family values or your family background. The upper part is your interests. And from your family background and your interests, we believe that kokorozashi is kind of born. So at the intersection of personal value and social interest, this is where kokorozashi emerges. And this is how the kokorozashi develops. Initially, maybe like at Globus, you are forced to create a kokorozashi and declare. But once you kind of say what is your kokorozashi, I think you would start to gather a lot of information, maybe a lot of good opportunities. And step 3 is kind of overcoming fears. And finally, if you find a kokorozashi, some people might say this is like a calling. I tell my students, once they have their meaning, activity that interests them, go to industry seminars, attend a lecture or online course, buy related books, get into the circle, aggressively seek out friends who are in the circle. So those of you who are here today, I think you have made the first step. Having a kokorozashi is a wonderful way to live your life. I hope you can hear how the 2 guests today have found their kokorozashi. Okay, with that, I'd like to invite the 2 panelists today. First, Ayako Raines-san, and second, Ivan Rav-san. Ayako-san, yeah, please join me in the beginning. Those of you who are on site, can you welcome with applause? Ayako-san is the investment banker, but probably I should say more, a former investment banker She became an educational consultant, and she is a horse rider in a way. So today we will hear from her. Ivan, you can see from this picture, he is a former NBA player of the Grizzlies, a born native from Oakland, and he's an entrepreneur now. He has his own farm, Property Rising, LLC. Yeah, Prosperity Rising. Yeah, Prosperity Rising. So let me start the panel with the two. Okay. I was thinking to. Yeah. So I just said kokorozashi is something that is an intersection of your family background and also your interests. So first I'd like to ask, what kind of child were you? So maybe I have some, can you start?
Well, I was born in Japan, and at 3 years old, my father's job took us to the United States. So I'm so-called kokushijo in Japanese, returned, or third cultural kid in nowadays terms that I just learned as in fact an adult. So I was in the United States for about 10 years before I returned to Japan as a middle school student, which was, if the Japanese audience can probably relate, it's a very tough time when you're thinking about getting into high school. And so it was really tough for me, but after that I spent some years in Japan before I came back to the United States as an adult. That's kind of the geographical background. But my family is, I'm the oldest of 4, and so I had a caregiving kind of helper role all my life for the younger ones. And then I was also close to, when I was in Japan, my grandparents on both sides were alive at the time, and also my great-grandmother. So some of that influence is there. My father's side was educators. My mother's side really had animals at home all the time. So they had a dog or a cat, and they were always around, and they lived next door to us for quite a long time. So I had some influences from my grandparents as well.
Thank you. And Ivan, what kind of child were you in the Rapp family?
Yeah, so speaking from my end, I was born in Sacramento, California, actually, and moved to Oakland at a very young age, made that transition with my family. And during the young childhood, section of my life, or portion of my life, I remember myself being a very deep thinker. I spent a lot of time to myself as far as just visualizing and thinking about what I wanted to be as I grew older. And I think my family played a big part in that because they encouraged that. They encouraged, taking time to get to know yourself and get to know your interests. And one of them happened to be basketball, but that was one of the many that I had. I was always very interested in science, thinking about space, thinking about history. So I took, my approach was, I never wanted to put myself in a single box. I always felt like I have, so much to offer. And basketball happened to be, my first career, but I have other interests.
Thank you. May I ask a little bit of what was the family value of the Tanaka family, and what was the family value of maybe the Rapp family?
So Tanaka is my Japanese family name. But I think, my family was very encouraging to keep learning and to explore. Again, we were in a different country situation where, we were all learning how to live in the United States at some point. But it was very open to different cultures. And for example, I went to a bat mitzvah and I went to a family that was from a different country and enjoyed their parties, etc. That was part of our, acceptance of a global culture, which really has lived on. And I also think appreciation of the education Even as a child, when you're forced to do your homework, you're not feeling it, but now I really appreciate the fact that my parents gave me a bilingual education from when I was young, because that was not easy for them or for myself, I'm sure. But to be able to speak the language fluently in both and understand two cultures is such an asset for me.
Thank you. And the Rab family?
Yeah, I think that's great. That's very relatable as well. I would say my family, you know, we preach togetherness at the very beginning. At the core of everything was just to stick together through it all. You know, having so many different experiences, tough times, great times, regardless of what happened, you know, we wanted to make sure that our core value of, you know, togetherness and family love was intact. From there, I would say, you know, we had a very big family in terms of great people that came into our lives, you know, along the journey. And regardless of whether or not they were, you know, with us since birth, you know, they became family over time just because of their genuine nature and, you know, good heart. So, you know, through those types of experiences, I've learned to navigate life, you know, and become open, you know, to the people that you meet along the way, because everyone has something to offer in terms of, you know, good energy, information, just genuine love and care, or you know, you never know what you'll find. So I think those two or three traits were very important.
I think I relate to that also, that biological family is not your own family. There's a lot of people that come into your life, and I consider a lot of the equestrian people that I've met, or anybody in the therapeutic world, the special education world that I've met, that have helped build who I am and what's going on around me. So yeah, it's a big family.
Even, you know, teachers. I'm sure there's just been teachers and professors in your life, whether it's educational as far as in the classroom, or coaches in sports, or if you played an instrument, you know, those type of coaches and things like that, they all played a role in our upbringing. So any chance I get, I always try to make sure that I acknowledge those people as well.
To the many people who are attending today, I think becoming an investment banker and an NBA player, that's probably a dream job for many. But Aiko-san, how did you become an investment banker?
So that is a great question. So I went to a liberal arts college in Japan. So I didn't study finance. I wasn't like a finance going, oh, I want to be an investment banker. I want to go into banking. That was not my thing initially. What I was good at was research, English, for sure, because I was a native speaker. And I was really curious and was really good at learning. So I was doing the natural process in Japan in like March to get a job, and you go to these seminars and you apply to different companies. And along the way, I met somebody, I had the fortune of speaking with an investment banker and learning what it was about. So I applied, and I was fortunate to have this interview at this, at this company. They went through like a day of 5 or 6 interviews in one day to finally the head of the investment banking division. I still remember he carried his briefcase, came in for 2 seconds and asked me one question, and then he said, oh, okay, and he left. So, and then so I waited after that, and I got hired, and it was a very, very good experience for sure. Yeah, and so, you know, it's not what I think I could say is it's not that you must be this certain kind of person to do a certain kind of job. It's more about your qualities when they're looking for a freshman right out of high school or college when you're looking for a job. Yeah.
So my story of how I became a professional basketball player is it's a very long story. But briefly, what I could say is I was always, as you can see, one of the tallest people around. So, you know, instinctually, people put me in position to become a basketball player. I was naturally gifted in certain areas, some more than others, and I just continued to work. And, you know, basketball has taken me around the world, and that's something that attracted me, because as I began to travel at a young age, go to places like Las Vegas or LA, Oregon, things like that, I felt like I was able to see the world, even though it's, you know, it's just the West Coast to some people, but that just interests me, and that kept me engaged. As far as on the basketball court, I improve very fast. I'm a fast learner. Whatever it is that I'm interested in, I take the time to study. So as far as basketball, that was watching a ton of videos, that was studying NBA players that I idolized. I knew everything from where they were from, their shoe size, what hand they were dominant with. And I became a professional basketball player as I was, at a young age. So I just took it very serious, but I always kept the love and the passion. And I think, all those things together got me where I went.
It sounds, very easy, but I imagine that it's extremely hard work to get to where the two of you were. Ayako-san, probably in the liberal arts, let's say, department, there are many people who can speak English.
Yes.
Who's a good researcher, who can write. What kind of differentiated you from others?
Well, I guess part of it was my eagerness to learn. I like Ivan said, when I started the banking career, I didn't know much about finance. I would study and try to learn all about the accounting systems and all these, I didn't have experience using Excel, but that's the primary tool at the time. And nowadays there might be other things that are used, but this is the shortcut you need to memorize and all these things. So I spent hours and hours asking questions and learning. So I think that was part of the qualities that they found attractive, and I think it's part of why I was able to be in that career for several years. Yeah.
Thank you. And Ivan, I can't come across many tall people in the United States. Of course, among them, I think you worked hard, you practiced hard, but what kind of made you to the All-American team or the All-Pacific team?
So that's an interesting question, and my answer would be my willingness to listen. So many people, in my age group, and I'm thinking, at the very beginning, they were very talkative, and that's not always a bad thing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, when there's a time where you speak, and there's a time where you ask questions, and there's a time where you just listen to what people are asking you to do and telling you to do. And what you learn is, especially in our professions, people want to see other people do well for the most part. So if you listen, the information that they're giving you is more than likely going to put you on the correct path. So I was young, and I just, sort of understood that. And I followed my heart. If I felt like someone was giving me quality information, then I took it and I processed it. If not, I still gave them the benefit of the doubt and listened. But eventually, the information would fall off, and I wouldn't necessarily follow it. So I think a lot of it is just having having an open ear, listening to your heart, and like you say, hard work and passion, doing diligent studies can get you really far.
But when I, because my profession is like an MBA professor, I meet many students who have a dream jobs, but contrary to what the two of you said, they might not be listening to their heart as much. They are following logic, numbers, but they're not listening, am I happy here? Do I appreciate, that kind of coach's advice? Why were you so open, or why could you follow your heart at that time?
Well, for me, in banking was my profession that I ended up in after college, my bachelor's degree. But I loved horses since I was a young child, and I've just ridden since I started riding when I was in about 3rd grade, and I couldn't give that up. So it was part of me as I was growing up. I continued to find opportunities to ride and to be engaged in the equestrian community. I also was a good speaker of English, so I had this fortunate opportunity to be an interpreter at a national competition when I was taking a break during my investment career, and that changed my life. So that's when I saw that, oh, you know what, I have different strengths, and this is what I really like to do. I loved being there because the one thing I just didn't mention was that this is a competition for people with disabilities, and so these people had no arms, no legs. Maybe they were deaf, they were blind, they had autism, they had all sorts of different kinds of challenges, but they can ride the horses better than I could. And I'm going, what's going on here? And the key there was the coach. So I was an interpreter for this wonderful coach that her name's Mary Longden. I need to give her credit. She's originally from Australia, and she's traveled internationally to help many, many people. But I just saw how that big impact, and then I saw how good I felt, because I was also in search for my identity for a long time, having been stuck in two cultures and maybe not being exactly like my family members. And so that gave me that energy to say, oh, you know what? I like this, and this makes me feel good. So that opportunity was really key to my life.
I love that. I think, you mentioned the people that you're coaching, their gifts, and, aiding them in blossoming their own gifts. And I think that's something at a young age, I realized some of my gifts. And regardless of where I went throughout my career, I stayed in contact, or I remained connected with those gifts, and I cultivated them, whether it's behind the scenes or in front of everyone else. So I think, as far as following my heart, it was definitely a battle, because, this is playing basketball is something that I've always wanted to do. It's always been, a part of me, but it's never been my whole being. So it was a battle to let go, but at the same time, I followed my heart, and a lot like you, it felt good to help other people. And one of my gifts has always been leadership, whether it's, being the main person or leading from, behind. And I think that's a gift in itself, because a lot of people feel like they need to be the main person, but sometimes, you can be just as effective or even more effective playing behind the scenes. So.
And I think too, I've been a special education teacher after this whole journey in the last few years, but it's about finding what strengths you have. All of it, in special education, when we have a person with a special needs, we tend to look at what they can't do all the time. In society in Japan, I realized I was being told I'm not good enough for this, that, but that doesn't get you anywhere. It just makes you depressed and sad, right? And so as an educator and currently as a college counselor, I try to say, okay, so but what are you good at? What do you like to do? Because that's so important, and then to find, and that the people around you realize that's who you are.
Yeah, I think, and once you own it, once you own your strengths and what it is that you like to do, you create barriers, and people begin to respect and understand what it is that you like to do. And that gives you the space that you need to cultivate those strengths and become a master in those areas. And it your heart just leads you, your heart and your journey is going to lead you where you need to be. I think a lot of it is just letting your guard down, believing in who you are, and trusting yourself.
Thank you. Let me go back a little bit. So, Ayako-san, how many years were you working in investment banking?
It's about 3.5 years, 4 years, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or so.
But many people regard investment banking as a job for life. Why were you able to leave with only 4 years?
First of all, I wasn't that kind of person that wanted to be a managing director, an executive director, a person that was, big on, yes, I want this, I want this kind of car, I want this money, making a career. That was not my fit. I was more a person-centered, social skills kind of person at that time. And also, it was just that I had this passion over here, and I just needed to do something that would help make me feel good, better than I need to go at midnight to work because I need to finish a presentation on time in order to meet the deadline for a bid, all right? I need to do this research. And I spend a lot of time trying to get things right, and sometimes that making a model, financial model, takes forever, and you can't get that iteration to go right. And so, the Excel's not cooperating with you. So I enjoyed that for a while. It was exciting, but that just wasn't how my life was. And so I started to explore.
Thank you. If I may continue on Ayako's track for just about a second. Well, money plays a certain role in society. And investment banking is one of the maybe highly paid jobs. I think you have made a fortune while working in investment banking. Were you not scared of moving away from that high paid job?
I think to me, it wasn't about pay because I was fortunate that I had family where I could live with at the time and try to figure things out, right? So if you're fortunate enough to have a house, you have your basics, right? Food, house, transportation, all of the things, then you have the opportunity to kind of explore a little bit. And also it's about mental health. And at some point in my investment banking career, it was getting way too much pressure for me. And I had times when I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm feeling very upset because I'm not, like I said, the cream of the crop. I'm the one that in that class or that year's hires that's learning still compared to somebody who already has a background in accounting and they went to one of the big schools, and some of them people were from like American schools and things like that. So I think that was part of it. It's like I was seeking balance and my family was helping, and I wasn't, of course, financially concerned. I was, of course, money is a thing, but to me, that wasn't like something I could continue. And I knew that I had the supports enough to take a chance. Yeah.
Thank you. Ivan, in your case, you always competed in the national level. You were selected 35th in the NBA draft. You become, an NBA player. Was that kind of a dream for you?
Absolutely. It was definitely a dream. It's something that I thought about, at a very young age. So it was always in my sights.
And what it was like to be an NBA player?
It was thrilling. It was everything that I ever dreamed of, for the most part. Every day was very exciting. Every day there was new obstacles and dealing with other people, different personalities in different cities. So many distractions, and it came down to just who you wanted to be as a person. So, I went through that at a pretty young age, and to be traveling and being around, just getting to experience so many different cultures, it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. So, overall, I would say that I handled it well, and I remained grounded.
And you also left NBA after 4 years. Maybe again, for many basketball players, and NBA is the end goal, and they would like to stay there for as long as they can. Why were you able to make the jump after 4 years?
Well, it's something that I'm still figuring out. I just know that it was very stressful for a period of time, and it took a toll on my mental health heavily, and I had to do a lot of self-discovery to figure out why I was feeling this way, and why I felt like something that I loved for so long, I was willing to take the step to move away from it in so many aspects. And I think once I got to the point where my awareness changed, and I began to study myself and study everything around me and figure out what exactly I was interested in, I realized basketball played a very small percentage of that. Not a very small percentage, but it played a small role in that, and I was willing to take the leap of faith.
If I may ask the same question with Ayako-san, NBA is also associated with big money. Wasn't that any concern to you?
Absolutely. Financial, a part of playing professional basketball is, the chase or the thrill of becoming financially stable and changing my family's trajectory of all of our lives. So, I had a conversation with my family, and they hit me in the heart. They told me, listen, you have already changed the trajectory of everyone in your family, the course of their lives. So basically what they were telling me is to take a step back and zoom out and look at every life that you've affected in a positive manner. And that, like I said earlier, family is not only those who are blood and blood related, it's also the people who became family along the way. So, everyone supported me. I was blessed with a great support system, and, they wanted to see me happy. Because they know me personally. They know basketball, it plays a part in who I am, but it's something that I love, but I have so many other interests. And you would be, there's so many parts of life that you don't necessarily get to enjoy as a professional basketball player. Like everyone looks at the pros, but there's a lot of cons that come with that as well. Obviously, people would trade. People think they want to wear these shoes, but it's difficult at times. So I just always thank my family and my friends for supporting me and reinforcing the greatness that they see in me. You know, they were open about who they felt I was, and more times than not, it aligned with who I thought I was, or who I built up in that mirror, you know, day after day. So first things first, I had to get my mental right. I move forward.
In the Kokorozashi course, many of my MBA students would talk about their turning point in life. What was your turning point in life?
So I mentioned this a little bit, but not before, but it was that competition I went to. It was definitely what opened my eyes. I didn't know very much about people with special needs until then, but I didn't need to. In that competition, it was just me. I like horses. You like horses. Oh, you speak English? Great. Can you just come and help? No, they didn't have, it was their 10th anniversary competition. They invited people from overseas that are great teachers, but they didn't have interpreters. And I was like, I found this. And one thing I encourage people to do is just do research. If you find a theme that you like, you just go and look, because that's what got me this opportunity. Is I found this little very small website back in the day, and I said, I can come, and I went. And so that was the biggest thing that happened in my life, was to say, you know what, it's okay to be different. Oh my gosh, we like horses and we just speak horse, that's it. So it doesn't matter if you know, I'm sure in basketball is the same, you know, if you go to a different culture, you play the same game, the rules are the same, so, you know, it doesn't really matter. And then that gave me a little bit of confidence too, because I felt like I didn't belong anywhere, and my identity search continued and continued and continued since I was very young.
A turning point in my transition came when one of my very close teammates had a conversation with me, because he can see it in my face and my body language that I wasn't necessarily happy coming to work out every day. So he just asked me, you know, to take some time off, take 4 or 5 days off, and just think about it. So I promise you, as I left the gym, it's almost like I felt relief, like I felt like I made the right decision, and everything else will fall into place, because I just, you know, that's how I think. I mean, I work hard, and I just trust myself. So that's kind of what happened. I took that step back, and I just surveyed everything. I thought about everything, top to bottom, and I reached out to some people for a little bit of mentorship. Like you said, you know, take that first step. You also mentioned that you did some studying online, and you saw opportunity and you took the first step. So many of our opportunities come when you're prepared, for one, but also when you're willing to put yourself out there. And no matter how you may feel like you're awkward or you don't fit in, but everybody feels like that. Everybody in the room, for the most part, feels that way. So just trust yourself and build yourself up more times than you tear yourself down, and eventually, you know, you become a new person. You become the person that you dreamed about becoming, and opportunities just
I never
happens.
thought I would ever be in America again as an adult. I never thought I would be a teacher. My grandparents were my father's side were teachers, and I was like, oh, okay, teaching, great. But I never thought about that. But here I am. And why did that happen? Because of my curiosity and trying to find out, well, oh my gosh, this is great thing, you know. And I kept continuing to seek and look and do research, and here I am today.
I think a ton of that goes to, it's about how great at something that you want to be. You know, it's a decision. I wouldn't say the transition is for everyone. You have to really think about it to yourself. You have to really be willing to put yourself out there and work at it. Because there's days where you feel like, you know, what did I do? What did I just do? Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's the thrill in the journey, and the thrill of all the lives that you touch along the way. Because people do know us, and you know, a lot of people may wish that they had the courage to do what, you know, some of the things that we've done. And I think one of my jobs is just to breathe that confidence into other people, because everyone has greatness. As you say, you know, you've worked with people, you've coached people, and I have as well. And we see different skills and different archetypes of people. And my thing is just to recognize that and, show them their greatness. Even at my basketball camps, I throw basketball camps, and I teach mental health as well. I teach meditation, something I'm very heavily involved in, and also neuroscience. And, one of my goals is to help them think differently, become optimistic. So something simple as like, when we huddle up to break it down, we call it breaking down, getting into the next drill. I tell them greatness on 3, because I want them to feel as if they're great. I want them to feel the power and when they say those words. And, the word is very powerful. And, I would say pick your words wisely, especially the words you speak to yourself.
And you just touched on mental health, but I think that was a huge part of my transitions and seeking, even till now, is how do I feel okay, right? And gaining those skills, like mindfulness and all these things that will help you through those stuck times. Because I did have a time when I was just really depressed and sad and I couldn't get anywhere. And I got confused until I got here. Fortunately, I had that money from investment banking, so I made a transition to come to the United States and get a little bit of education, all right? But until then, there was a lot of thoughts, and then if you don't have that skill to come back and be happy and well, it gets really tough. So when I teach my students, it's like, okay, well, let's take a breath here, because they can, the little ones I taught would throw things, get angry, but okay, we need to calm down. How do we do that? So it's really important, I think.
It's very interesting. I think many people will say investment banking is my dream job. Many people, I imagine, would say an MBA is my dream jobs. But for the two of you, it won't. And you found something else. Now, may I ask, what is your dream job today? What is what is your kokorozashi today?
I think for me, it's to help people find their stories and tell it with their own voice. So I'm kind of a storyteller. I loved language. I speak English, and I did interpretations. I also help people write essays to apply to colleges right now. I've also worked with the little ones, and all the way from kindergarten with special needs, to say it's okay to have a disability. So what? What are you good at? And in finding that voice. So I kind of like to continue on that, and I want to mention that I did get a chance as a journalist, because I was an interpreter. It came from that, and I met a journalist, and he helped me to express their voices in writing in magazines, and that started a whole thing where I even went to the Paralympics and got involved in the whole sport of para-equestrian, which is the equestrian sport for people with disabilities at the Paralympics. So now I have a whole community around the world that I know a lot, and involved in that sport and how they're getting there. I also am helping a few of these younger athletes because I know the history and I have connections and things, and even coaching them through, you need to pass that test at school before you can even go and compete this weekend, So it's a lot of this, like using your experience, and I think helping to tell stories is what I like to do. Yeah.
I think that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I really do. I think, my dream job at this point is to become a teacher. I think that's my passion. I love to teach. And I'm still, sorting it out and sorting out what exactly I want to teach. I believe, mental health is something I can easily teach, obviously I have to put the time in, but I can do that. Meditation, mindfulness is something that I practice daily, so that is obviously something that I try to share as much as I can, and I'm so passionate about it. I feel like that's one of my callings as well. And I could also teach basketball and other things, but I plan to just create my own curriculum and tie everything together, and I'm working on that as we speak. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and I feel like it can be a lifelong career for me.
I think education is huge, because that's what's changed everything for me, is when I went out and seeked out learning. Like, I did a business program here in the United States initially, thinking that I wanted to figure out something in the business field. But, it evolved into education. I went into getting a master's in special education, got really into that and helping people, and I learned so much. But as an educator myself in the teaching process, I think I still had a lot of teachers too. So, if you find a good coach, it makes such a difference. And it doesn't have to be, a famous person or a professional coach. It might be your dad, or it might be your friend, or whoever, things like that.
Yeah, I think that was a great point. I feel like so many of our teachers they don't have the same profession as us, but they have wisdom and insight, that we can take and apply to our lives. So I would tell many people out there just to listen to the messages that, those people who want to give us knowledge and share their journeys with us. Listen closely and apply the information. There's no point in taking in information and just for the heck of it. You want to take it and try it out and figure out what works for you, because there's some things that you might try that won't work, and there's other things that will work over and over again. It's kind of like, I like to call it your bread and butter.
Thank you. So I was thinking of asking the effect of education, but the two already answered. So let me ask another question. Today we talked about following your heart, but the impression I got when the two of you were talking about your kokorozashi is maybe your body language was much more active. Now, horse riding is about, balancing yourself with the horse. Basketball, basically you're moving your body. How important is body to you in making decisions? Where I'm coming from is I do Aikido. So basically, my body reacts much faster than my brain. So basically, the brain is very slow. So a lot of decisions we tend to make with our body. But let me ask a horse rider and a basketball player. How do you use your body?
How do I use my body as a professional basketball player
Or in life?
in life? Well, that's a great question. So studying, I'm familiar with Aikido now, since we've had our discussions, and it aligns with some of the practices that I study on a day-to-day basis. So I understand how, I believe in energy. I'm very heavily in energy, and I understand how energy can be blocked inside of your body. So there are practices that I do, and other people, I've been taught by master teachers as well, one of them being my coach, Coach Anthony Eggleton. And what I do is I can feel a blockage in my body. So if I feel like I'm not trusting my heart, I'll go through a practice that'll open my heart up to opportunity or to encouragement, because in so many ways we block those blessings in our life, being closed off. So I became intentional about the way I'm feeling. If I feel, feel unsure or anxiety in my stomach, I'll go through a practice or exercise that'll clear that for me. So that way I can operate, in the, as my best self.
Yeah, for me, horses are very reflective of how you are feeling. So if they understand if you're anxious, they understand if your body's sideways, if you're crooked, if your body's not right, all of that balance and mental, and you have to be thinking and focused in order to communicate with this being that doesn't talk. So a lot of that helps me to be focused and just in tune with what's happening in the present versus what's might be happening all over the place. So it gives me an opportunity every time I see to just let go and be in that space. So, horse, in the current horse I'm riding, he will buck and be upset if I'm off balance, and he knows right away, and he's like, what are you doing? So,
But it sounds like, it's similar as a horse. It's a different being. Now, if you look around the room, we're all different beings here, and we can all sense, when someone is uptight or, just unsure. And, and that's okay. It's natural. But I think it's about just bringing the awareness to yourself and centering yourself to calm down, and understand that we all going through anxiety or whatever it may be. There's a long list of things. So just extending grace to people, extending grace to yourself, and remaining calm, and it'll go a long way. And the more you practice, the better you get.
Last question to the two of you. There are many attendees today who are in search for their dream jobs. What would be your advice today? Whoever is ready.
I would tell them to be that person that they want to be. You have to. From my experience, it's important to study that person, study that career, and embody as many of those traits as you can. To become that person. So it's easier said than done, but I think it's important. I'm a visual learner, so what I do is I write everything out, and I try to just scratch things off the list. So becoming a teacher, the first thing I had to do was understand what am I good at. Like, I've always been good at public speaking. So what I did was I put it down on the list, and I realized, okay, I can scratch it off the list. Now, can I give information in order, or do I bounce around? There's what I'm trying to say is there's so many traits to becoming who you want to be, and you have to understand that person, become them, and go for it.
For me, I think I would love to recommend that you think about what's most important to you in your life. At one point in my life, I was so busy being an investment banker, so busy being a special education teacher, I didn't look around. I was just like, I need to do my work, and that's all. But that's not life. And for me right now, what's most important is my family. My husband, who is here, then my extended family overseas, et cetera, and my husband's family, et cetera, and then all these other people that have become my family are important. So I need to make time for them, and I will make that mental space and time now as a conscious thing. So what's important to you, and what do you love to do? Because if you try to scratch out what you love to do just because you have to have a job, you won't last. And you'll be like, okay, I'm suffering, and that's it. And then the other thing is ask for help, please. Because when I got stuck in mental health space, I was not afraid to go and ask and get help. So, or when I got stuck, when I didn't know what I was doing, hey, Mary, I want to learn more about this. Where do I go? Ask questions, and don't be afraid to do that.
With that, I'd like to end the panel. For those of you online, I hope you have heard or you have felt the energy and inspiration from the two panelists. Thank you, Ayako-san. Thank you, Ivan-san. And I'd like to mention our lawyer who have introduced us. Yorozu Sensei, thank you very much for introducing the three of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, could you take a seat? And Ashley, can you come up?
Okay, so now we have an opportunity for Q&A time. So this is your chance to ask questions. If you are joining us online, please just type your questions in the chat, or feel free to raise your hand. You can find it under the reactions function. But first, we're going to start with some on-site questions. If anyone in the audience has a question for either Ayako or Ivan. Yes.
Okay. I guess to both of you, you've probably been in many different scenarios, many different places, but when you see people making big decisions, how often do you think people take ethics into consideration, percentage-wise? And yeah, that's my question.
So this is the ethics.
Can you repeat?
How often do you take?
No, what I was asking was when people make big decisions, it could be buying a new team or, buying a new company, things like that. How often do they take ethics into consideration?
Ethics.
I
Yeah.
think think that's a great question for sure. Because, you know, if you learned about, for example, if I was, I was working in a company and I learned about a competitor and I wanted to go to the competitor, that's kind of, a tricky bridge to cross. And so is that an ethical decision? I'm not sure. And that kind of thing, some people will say, that knowledge was from here and it's not quite right. But, in teaching world, we have a lot of things that happen. Some people get tenured and they stay. Some people will get terminated after a year just because it wasn't the right fit. So there's ethics on both sides, the hiring side and the side that is being hired. And so it's kind of a fine balance. I think it's a great question, but I don't really have the greatest answer for that yet. But I think, there is some consideration when you do make a decision, whether you're the hiring side or you're the one that is being hired.
Could you reframe that question a little bit so I can?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay. When people make any big decisions, it could be in a company, could be within a team, who they choose to be as captain, who they choose to be, the coach, who the starting five are. How often, when they make these decisions, how often do you see them taking ethics into the consideration, or they just look at the money, or they just look at favoritism, prejudice, things like that?
Okay. Well, I think just like anything else, it depends on the person or the organization and the foundation of, the team or the organization, whoever it may be. So I think if the organization is built on ethics and morals, that'll definitely sway the way that they do business. But I think if I can speak for myself and my experiences, I do. There's been experiences where I've seen favoritism. There's been much more experiences where I've seen, people just doing right and putting, making the decision that they feel is best for the team based off the work ethic and the, being attentive in practice and putting their best foot forward and being a good person. Those types of traits get you a long way.
Playing off that a little bit, in like the education system, some teachers are let go because of budget issues. And they hire other teachers to replace, even if they were good teachers. So is that an ethical decision? I question that to see if that was in play there. So there are different decisions for sure out there.
Are there any other questions for on-site attendees? Oh, great.
Thank you very much for your wonderful stories. So most of your message should be for me to think about myself, but most of the time I was thinking of my sons. So they are 12 years old and 8 years old sons. And so I was wondering that my sons, how they thinking that their usual daily life. So as far as I see, they have not such kind of a big curiosity or passions at this point. But could you share some story that your child age, that your families or relatives that was so impressed you, so that may be the turning point or something. So could you share some ideas or stories?
So one experience, a few experiences come to mind. One that I'll share was, I believe I was in high school, maybe 9th or 10th grade. I'm heavily into basketball at this point. But I'm going to mention the experience that brought in my awareness to the things that life had to offer. And it's something very simple to me now. So we took a family trip to Northern California where, we went to go ride ATVs, which are four-wheelers. And as a basketball player, it's like taboo. This is because obviously you have a career and, you want to play it safe so often in your career. So just having that experience and, I got on the ATV and I was very careful, but it was a sense of freedom that I had and a sense of awareness that was, that I had no idea. It wasn't in my consciousness. Like, people, this is genuinely fun and this is something that I want to experience. So I think thinking about your children, just give them different experiences. Ask them questions about what they're interested in. I'm not sure how much you travel, but just try different things. Try something that you've never tried before. Try something that your family has never tried before. You know, and you'll answer a lot of your own questions and ask your kids, you know, genuinely, how do you like this, you know? Just
So
be.
I'm going to share a story from a teacher perspective. I had to teach some kids about the winter time, but here in California we have no snow. And the story was about snow, and these were kindergarten to second graders in a special needs class. So we went and made snow out of shaving cream, and we did that because they didn't know what it was. And like, okay, this is not real snow, but it's kind of like this. It's cold, it's soft. So if you've never had the experience, you're never going to know if you like it or not. So some of the kids said, ew, no way. Some of the kids are like, whoa, I want to go to see the snow, right? So it's as simple as that. I think I'm very thankful for my family, especially my dad, who took us around and did different things. He helped me to continue riding, right? And that's been really important to me. So anything, it doesn't have to be something special. It might be cooking with mom, and let's make a cookie, right? I've never made cookies before, let's bake. Or it might just be going to the store and buying something, but they've never gone to that store before, and they see something that inspires them, or anything at all. So I think it's about like little experiences. Like even in the summertime, right now I'm growing some flowers, and I'm like, wow, I've never seen that happen before, you know? So I think it's all those wow moments that the kids can have.
Great advice, even for adults. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, are there any more questions for on-site attendees? Oh, great.
No, please.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful stories. So my question is, I think you have already answered about the turning point of your life. So I was curious about how long did it take for you to decide the actual decision of the turning point? That's my question. How long did it take?
For me, it took about probably a year or so or more. I was already starting to search towards the third year because I was like, well, this is not, and that's when I went to volunteer and I started doing other things outside. But I took time, and then I'm still searching, of course, to see what the best case is, you know, always continuing with that. But yeah, and then my first transition was to come and do school in America for a year. In California, and then, but after that, I did worked for a nonprofit that it's called American Humane, that supports animals, and then I went into special education. So these transitions took time and trial and error, kind of, to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very relatable, but it also took me around a year. And as I was coming towards the end of my career, I was contemplating daily, just wanting to figure out where I wanted to be in the next 4 or 5 years, where I saw myself. Because, you know, you get so caught up in having the same career, you know, sometimes when you are making a transition, it's like, well, this wasn't in the plan. So just planning visually, like I would close my eyes and try to figure out where that was taking me. And it took a year. I'm still also going through the
That
transition.
year, were there any small turning points that you made the actual decision, or did it take for you to just understand that you have to move to the next step, or?
They were, that's a great question. That's a great question. So I believe in synchronicity in my life, and I saw synchronicity after synchronicity daily, and it was like, when am I finally going to listen to what I'm seeing and take a first step? So, and I mentioned earlier when my close teammates, you know, told me to take a break, and that was like an up-close conversation where I couldn't ignore it, and I'm like, you know what, you know, if this isn't a message to, you know, at least at the minimum step back, you know, then what is? So I just finally listened. Just pay attention, be observant.
One of my things, I think, was I was an interpreter during that bridge time. And I did a lot of interpreting for people that came for equestrian events and teaching people about the equestrian culture, animal-assisted activities. And I saw people from around the globe come and share in Japan. And I think that's a really good thing about Japan is people come to the country. And when I was doing that, I was still thinking, well, oh, I want to be like that. Oh, wow, that's out there in the world. And taking those pieces together. And then I finally realized it was the coaching and teaching that was what I really liked about how to work with people. And so, yeah, it was kind of interesting.
If you remember my slide, on the last stage, before calling, there'll be a lot of synchronicities. So if synchronicity comes to your life, you should take it.
It's not easy though.
It is hard. It is
not
very hard. Because if you have family, you have kids that need to go to college eventually, you need that finance and et cetera. You have responsibilities for the parents or whatnot. It's very hard for a professional to suddenly switch. But I have seen this happen in different careers, so.
And I think, as human beings, we deserve to have more than one experience. Who's to say that you need to be in the same place for the rest of your life? I mean, just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that it's your calling. So I really genuinely believe that, it's okay to transition and try different things.
Actually, is there any
Yes.
online
So
questions?
there are some online questions that have come in. So this one, it's kind of a multi-part question. Do you deal with social anxiety from not doing what you are known for? And how do you manage and explain and feel comfortable with what you are doing now?
So this is a heavy question for me. This is a heavy question for me. Yes, to answer the first part, I do. At times I deal with the social anxiety. At times I want to avoid the conversation. But I think now I'm at the point in my life to, it fluctuates, but I do feel like I'm at the point to where I'm willing to own what it is that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, because I feel like I'm making a difference in people's lives. It's not like I stepped away and I don't know, not to judge anyone, but I feel like my purpose is to also give back to the people. And it's, if you pay attention to the history of my life and my career, it's something that I've always embodied. I've always wanted to teach and mentor the youth and do things of that nature. So it fits.
I will say yes to that question. I do feel a lot of social anxiety because it's hard to explain who I am. I was an investment banker, then I was an interpreter, I'm a journalist, and then now I teach, and then I'm coaching people to get into college. So who are you, right? So it's very difficult when you go and say, hey, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I'm an educator, right? So, it was a tricky question, but there is a story behind it. So it's like, at least I have this title now called college counselor for now.
Just multifaceted.
Yeah.
Multifaceted. And that's great. What's wrong with that?
Because when I go, actually, you can have multiple shoes, I think. Because when I go into journalist space, in the beginning of August, there's going to be the World Equestrian Games. Some parallel equestrian competition is going to happen, so I will actually be remotely reporting on that. So in that context, everybody knows me as a journalist. So, yeah.
Great. So we have another question. It's shorter than the previous one. How do you address procrastination?
The best way I can answer that is to create a system for yourselves. And once you gain momentum, you want to ride that momentum as long as you can, because at times it'll fluctuate, it'll flatline, and you have to and then what I do is I put myself in a place where I gain inspiration again, or, whether that's the beach, I'm big on the beach, or a hike, or hanging with my friends and family. They recharge my mental battery. I cleanse my social battery. Social hygiene, mental hygiene and social hygiene, come back and start again.
Yeah, so as a teacher, I tell my students you need a goal. If you don't have a goal for that, whatever you're trying to do, you're never going to get it done. So when are you going to have it done? Oh, I don't know. Well, it's hard. And life is, I had to keep moving my goal so the goal can move if you're not going to approach it. But let's say you wanted to start the Globus MBA program, but you're not just ready today, but you think you want to start it, then when can you start it by? Oh, next spring. Okay, I'm going to work towards next spring. So if you can try to set a goal, it kind of helps.
We welcome you anytime.
So we had a couple questions that were kind of similar, so I'll combine them into one,
Yep.
and it might be a good one to end on. Do you feel that your work and your life mission are now aligned? Essentially, do you feel that you're living your purpose now?
I can start with that. I do. I actually feel really good now. For the first time in my life, these few years, I'm starting to feel good because, and it's just these few years. It took such a long time to figure out who I am and what I like to do. And right now, I fortunately am able to, do all the journalism, and I've built those networks of people within the para-equestrian community, the equestrian community. I have knowledge that I can share now because I've spent the time learning it and the experiences. So like Ivan has a career in basketball that nobody, now when he started, he didn't have. So it's some kind of like that where I've gained the experiences. Now I have enough in my pocket to say, oh, you know what? I'm feeling okay. Yes, I'm okay to say I'm an educational consultant and people will listen to me. Before, like 10 years ago, no way. Right?
I would agree. I do feel like I'm in that similar space. And it takes time to own it. And I'm still so early in my journey, so I don't want to claim anything that, I haven't experienced. But I just rely on the relationships that I've built over time, rely on, the diligence to get up and, be consistent in life and also in work. And I just, create goals. I think that's something that I've gotten better at, taking time to create a goal, because without that, you're kind of just aimless, and
I think
you waste a lot
it's
of time.
It's also about taking chances, right? It's okay to fail. Like when I've been working in the education system, everybody's scared that they're going to make a mistake. Like kids with dyslexia, they're saying, but I don't want to write because my spelling is terrible. I don't care about your spelling. Tell me what you want and just write it. I'll write it down for you, or just go ahead and type it. I don't care about your spelling, So take the chance, and then it will make you you're feeling like you're not breathing, and then once you did that, it's like, oh, that wasn't too bad. I feel like I'm breathing now, right? So it's like I felt stuck, but then when I took the chance and did that one event, and I went and volunteered, that kind of unstuck me. So it was kind of helpful. Yeah.
Great.
Upon listening to your answers, I'm very happy I brought you to the right seminar. We also have a Technovate seminar where we talk technology, but I think it's good that we all have a Kokorozashi. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so with that, we're going to end our Q&A session. So for those on site, please give a loud round of applause for our guest today.